So this is the maple syrup I bought at my local store, and it's very sweet and mapley, and there's a clear difference when I compare it to just regular whole boring syrup. This is clearly superior, find me on that. But why am I telling you this in an IEM review for the Davinci? Well, it's because the Davinci is a perfect example of what happens when you come in expecting to get maple syrup, but instead you just get regular syrup. That and plus the mid bass is very thick and syrupy, hence the analogy. Now the slam and no way on the Davincis are very enjoyable actually. The impact in particular from the low end is heavy and very satisfying, especially in the drums. I found the rhythmic section to be very engaging. Drums are thumpy and hits pretty deep, giving you that fun low end experience. They work great for hip hop, rap, R&B, and some rock tracks. I say some because even though the slam and energy is there, again pretty thumpy, but the decay, the speed, or how fast the drivers pull back after slamming seems just to be a little bit slow in comparison, which on the plus side gives the Davinci that thicker, warmer, and syrupy feeling to the sound. But this also means that instrument separation, like the drums for example, are not as clear and textured because the attack and the decay is slower, while having the bass being more forward, taking up more headspace, which as a result makes the instruments feel closer together and you can hear less of the individual details. Vocals are also affected and colored because of slower, the boomier presentation to the mid bass that kind of spreads out into the rest of the sound more. Female vocals in particular are huskier and warmer. They're not as open, clean, detailed, and sparkly or extended. I think they're fine, right? It's definitely colored, but it's not like overly bloated or too congested or unnatural. Treble extension is also okay. Again, the Davincis aren't sparkly or airy. They don't excel in like the treble detail or the the micro details, but you do get enough of the treble to not lose any information, and the detail is there and it's what you expect at this price, and overall it's not dark or like super like a roll off in the treble. Now based off reviews and comments from Davinci owners, I came into this expecting Davincis to be very bassy, almost like a bass head set, almost like the DOSCINCOs, but it's not a super bassy set. Davinci definitely has a good amount of bass. The sound is tilted towards the low end. It's warm leaning, but I'm not getting any special sauce from the low end like I do from the DOSCINCOs. In other words, tying back to the syrup analogy, the Davinci is just regular thick syrup. The low end isn't, I guess, different or quote unquote special like the maple flavor syrup on the DOSCINCOs. My unit actually has not that much bass. It's fairly balanced and fairly all-rounded compared to the DOSCINCOs, which I have a lot of bass on my DOSCINCOs, and the texture and the slam is actually better on the DOSCINCOs versus the Davincis. Now there are some unit variations on both the DOSCINCOs and the Davincis because it's sci-fi. It is what it is. But if you're looking for like a very bassy set with a really heavy slam, then the DOSCINCOs would still work better in that scenario. It's just more different and it has its own flavor, whereas the Davincis is more more like what you expect from like an all-rounder with a slight emphasis in the low end with the sumpy bass. For most people, I actually think the Davincis would be better overall and better than the DOSCINCOs because it is more palatable than the DOSCINCOs. It's not as heavy or like bass heavy in the tuning or in the low end because the maple syrup is a more acquired taste, whereas regular syrup, well, most people are gonna like regular syrup. Resolution wise, the Davincis are fine. I would say it's what you expect for the price. The low end texture is a bit smoothed out, the attack is slightly blunted. Again, the impact is there. Like I really enjoy the slam on these, but I just wish the bass was a little bit tighter and better separated in the bass notes, more resolving in general. For example, on Hulu and 360, the bass notes on the Davinci feels like they're kind of fused together into one note, and it feels a little bit blunted in the attack and not as punchy versus some of the other sets that we'll talk about later. Now this is fine if you like a warm and smoothed out sound to your music. The Davinci gives off that thick but still fun, engaging sound because it does have good extension in the upper mids and the treble to not get drowned out by the bass. However, when I switch over to the high fours, the separation and reverb to the bass notes are just noticeably better on the high fours, which is weird because you expect the low end to sound fairly similar because they graph almost the same, but in reality, that's not the case. And this is also similar with the Hype 2s. If you're okay with EQing the Hype 2s, they sound very good, like in my opinion, better than DaVinci's when it comes to the bass because of like the esoteric design. It's faster in the separation, and you still get the rumble and just the overall weight, the note weight to the impact. And even though both the Hype 2 and the Hype 4s have more vocal, vocal gain, the vocals are more forward and more detailed, you would expect them to sound, a little bit sharper because of that, but they actually sound smoother than the DaVinci's. This is probably because number one, the driver differences. DaVinci is using their own, custom BAs, whereas the Hype 4s are using, quote unquote higher quality drivers with the Sonian and the Knowles. And number two, difficulty in production because of the amount of crossovers that the DaVinci uses. It uses 5 versus the 3 on the Hype series, so more moving parts, more issues, and I can't really tell that Dunu is using 5 crossover because like in terms of overall refinement, smoothness, and detail, both the Hype 2s and the Hype 4s are smoother and a little more resolving. So, and if we're strictly talking technical performance alone, value wise, the Super Mix 4, the Nova are both better and half the price at around $150. Even Timmy's other collab, the Chopin, is more technical and it's $100 cheaper. So this is definitely not a set you would go for if you want like the most technical bang for your buck at $300. So who are the DaVinci's for then? Well, if you like a fun and warm, thick sound to the music, you want that thump, the impact to the bass, then that's where the DaVinci's shine. They're not as bassy as the DOSCINCOs, and in terms of like the texture and the overall heaviness and the slam, the DOSCINCOs will still be better. And they're not quite an all-rounder either because it is a little bit too bassy and a little bit too warm sometimes. I think the Hype 2s, the Nova, the Super Mix 4, the Quintet, and even the Cinco Tres would all be better, as like all-rounders in that scenario. They're just cleaner and just, much more balanced in the upper mids and the treble versus the DaVinci's. But that doesn't mean that DaVinci isn't a good IEM. I think it's still pretty enjoyable. If you want to support Timmy, go for it. The wood plating is very beautiful, but just know what you're getting yourself into, because even though the plating, it could be potentially, made out of maple wood, the sound is not maple syrup in that regards. Anyways, that's pretty much it. Explore and S08 review coming up next, and then we got a bunch of other stuff coming like the Oracle Mark 3s, the 61T. I'll compare the 61Ts to the DaVinci's and like the DOSCINCOs as well, but that's it for now. Thanks for watching, guys, and thanks for waiting for me to come back on vacation. This was a long overdue video on the DaVinci's, but now that we're back, stay tuned for the other stuff, and I'll see everyone in the next one. Shout out to Jeff Young, Rorax Cat, Dom Q, Star Buccaneers, Disc Call Scaldist, B Urak, Mystic Spoon Attack, Oh Really, Walker Standard, User, Ernest, Contain Guava Juice Gains, Patrick, Bellcell Kel, Rosar the Kelf, Paulie J, Mr. Gorillas, Anto Risto, Gis Seng Young, Tamat Pafrache, Ed Dunlap, Christopher Jackson, Name, Henry Claudia, Son of a Horse, 777ZK, Asher, and Ben Thompson. Thank you guys so much for the support, and I'll see everyone in the next one.